I am 43 years old. Eliza is 39. And after 19 years of marriage, I know what silence tastes like. Not peaceful, no, that's a myth. It's silence that lies on your tongue like metal and leaves a burnt coffee aftertaste, no matter how sweet the moment was. Every morning I sit in the same spot at the kitchen table in the house I helped design. Sunlight pours onto the apron. Eliza chose cream-colored ceramic tiles with delicate gray veins, like cracked porcelain. She used to dance here. Mostly to sing AITA. She would hum "Fly Me to the Moon" while stirring pasta or chopping onions, barefoot and happy, twirling between the cabinets as if no one could see her. And now? She still dances, but only when she thinks I'm not looking. Mostly she just moves around me. As if I'm furniture. As if I've always been here and she doesn't remember why. We met when she was 20. She was a sophomore in college, and I was finishing my master's degree in literature, working part-time as a guest lecturer. I saw her in the front row, her glasses sliding down her nose, her pen tapping on a paperback copy of Joan Didion. She was brilliant. Complex. She didn't laugh at jokes, she analyzed them. But when she did laugh, it was like I heard the answer to a question I didn't know I was asking. We hit it off quickly. We fell in love even faster. At first, it was poetic, without rhyme or logic. Just two people caught up in the rhythm of something they thought would never end. But poetry disappears when real life sets in. Somewhere between her switching to decaf coffee and us starting to save up for a new water heater, something in our relationship began to fade. I first noticed it in bed 8 years ago. Eliza started turning away from me, not out of anger, but out of habit. Our intimacy disappeared. It became routine. Then rare. Then it disappeared altogether. I tried everything. I bought lingerie she never wore. I suggested fantasies she dismissed with laughter or a frown. Once, I asked if we should try a threesome, just threw it out there. She looked at me like I had confessed to murder. You don't love me if you're willing to share me. That hit me hard. Because wanting something more never meant I wanted less of her. I didn't want permission to cheat, I wanted permission to hope. But over time, she built walls I couldn't climb over, and I stopped knocking. The toys I had ordered lay unopened in the bottom drawer. The silence around us grew thicker, as if there was a third person in the room. There was a period when we didn't touch each other for 8 months. 8. I brought it up once. She nodded. I know, she said, without looking up from her book. That was it. And yet I stayed. Because I believed that love sometimes has to hurt. That maybe that's what people mean when they say marriage takes work. I thought I could survive the emptiness. And then, 2 months ago, Elisa went to Portland for a literary symposium. For 3 nights. She was nervous about her presentation. I told her she would be wonderful. She kissed me on the cheek and said she loved me. I believed her. She came back a little quieter than usual, but I chalked it up to travel fatigue. I made her tea. Massaged her shoulders. Didn't think much of it. Last week, we were in the kitchen. I was making toast. She walked in barefoot, wearing an old college sweatshirt. The one I loved. She didn't sit down. She didn't look me in the eye. I have something to tell you, she said. Her voice was steady. There were no tears. I cheated on you. 2 months ago. In Portland. His name was Mark. We had sex. 3 times. His wife found out. I didn't want you to hear it from her. The word cheated hung in the air like cigarette smoke. I stared at the tabletop. My coffee steamed untouched. The toast was burnt. You cheated? I asked. It sounded like someone else had said it. Yes. Why? She exhaled as if she had been holding her breath for too long. Because I felt invisible. That hurt more than the betrayal itself. Because I realized that I felt invisible too. And neither of us said a word. She said it wasn't emotional. Just physical. That it helped her discover something about herself, that sex and love can be separate. That Mark made her feel desired in a way she hadn't felt in years. I used to be closed off, she said. But now I understand. I understand myself better. I sat down. My knees wouldn't hold me up. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just listened as my wife told me that another man had revealed something about her that she had hidden from me for years. And she was calm. That's what broke me. Not the fact itself. The calmness. It was as if she was doing me a favor by being honest. And the worst part? Some sick, stubborn part of me still wanted to believe that it could be fixed. That maybe this fire would burn away all the rot. Because love doesn't just make men stupid. Sometimes it builds them cages, gives them the keys, and watches them lock themselves inside. I couldn't sleep the night she told me. I lay there staring at the ceiling fan spinning like it was trying to stir the truth into something easier to swallow. I kept thinking, if it happened 3 times, that meant there was time to stop. Time to regret. Time to choose me. But she didn't. At 2:16 a.m., I found myself in the hallway outside our daughter's old room, now just a half-used storage space filled with half-finished plans. I stepped inside and sat on the edge of the twin bed, the one we'd kept for when family visited. The sheets smelled like dust and old laundry detergent. That's when the tears came. Quietly. Like they didn't want to embarrass me. I cried like a man who didn't know if he was grieving a person or a version of himself he thought still existed. Then, I laughed. Actually laughed. Because I remembered the last time Elise surprised me. It was our 10th anniversary. She made reservations at a fondue place. The waitress brought out the dessert and Elise leaned across the table and whispered, "I almost called your mother to ask for your favorite cake. But I remembered, you're diabetic." "I'm not diabetic," I told her. "Oh," she said. "I think I just wanted a reason not to bake." That memory used to make me smile. Now it just made sense. You start connecting the dots in the dark. And the picture it forms isn't always flattering. The next day, I started watching her. Subtle, quiet watching. Like when you test your brakes a week before an inspection. I noticed how she kept her phone face down. How her smiles at texts came too quickly. How she deleted call logs, then stopped doing that, as if it would look more innocent if she left some clutter behind. I caught myself reading her calendar like it was a suspect's alibi. Business trip. Hair appointment. Dinner with Kara. Kara lives in Denver. I began to replay our conversations in my head like security footage. The offhand comments. The night she said she was tired but then stayed up texting with the brightness turned all the way down. The long showers. The new underwear I didn't recognize. It was becoming clear, Mark might have been the first, but he might not be the last. I downloaded a note app and started a list. Dates. Times. Patterns. It felt absurd, but necessary. I labeled it fiction draft, just in case she ever glanced over. Here's where it gets funny in that gut punch sort of way. I once sold a used Honda to a guy who brought his mistress along for the test drive. I remember thinking, man, if your side chick's opinion matters this much, your marriage is already totaled. Turns out, I was test driving a lie of my own. I couldn't tell anyone. Not yet. Not while it was all still so shapeless. I needed something concrete. Not gossip. Not intuition. Evidence. Because right now, Elise's betrayal was real, but if I said it aloud, it would become official. And I wasn't ready for that. So instead, I let her kiss me goodbye on her way to yoga. I watched her walk out the door in leggings that weren't there 6 weeks ago. I told her I loved her. She said, "I know." And for the first time, I realized she wasn't saying it back anymore. By the time a week passed, I knew 2 things with certainty. First, I was no longer just suspicious, I was certain she was hiding more. Second, I had no idea what I was supposed to do with that certainty. I wasn't raised to snoop. My father once told me, if you have to dig through someone's life, you're already standing in the grave of the relationship. But Dad also believed credit cards were the devil, and Elise had 3. One night, after she fell asleep, I sat on the bathroom floor, back against the tub, scrolling through the billing app linked to our shared account. I wasn't looking for neon signs. Just breadcrumbs. A dinner here. A spa visit there. One charge stood out, a boutique hotel on a Thursday night. Not in Portland. In our own city. I stared at the date. It was the night she said she stayed late at the office helping plan a charity auction. I wanted to scream, but instead, I wrote it down in the fiction draft. The next morning, she left early for work. I stayed behind and dug through the closet. That's when I found it, a small black bag behind a box of winter scarves. Inside were the red heels she hadn't worn since her cousin's wedding 4 years ago, a silk robe with a tag still on it, and a travel-sized bottle of expensive perfume. One I didn't recognize. The scent was sharp, unfamiliar. It smelled like someone else's memory. And that's when something strange happened. I didn't cry. I sat there on the floor of our closet, clutching that robe like a flag of surrender, and I started to laugh. It wasn't joy. It wasn't madness. It was the kind of laugh you hear from someone who's just realized the magician's trick. The misdirection had been flawless. The audience, me, was just too willing to believe and wonder. It reminded me of when I worked summers in high school doing HVAC installs. One time, we serviced a client who swore her air conditioning was haunted. Said the vents whispered at night. Turned out, she had a squirrel family nesting in the attic. That day, my foreman said, people will invent ghosts just to avoid facing rats. That line hit me different now. She was the ghost. And I was chasing her through walls I didn't know were hollow. I started making plans. Small ones. Backup email. Separate bank account. A call to an old friend who knew a good divorce attorney, not to schedule anything, just to ask. Then came Sunday. We were invited to dinner at a couple's house we knew from her book club. Halfway through a discussion about classic literature, Elise made a joke about infidelity in Madame Bovary. Sometimes a woman just needs something thrilling, she said, swirling her wine. Everyone chuckled. Except me. I was too busy watching how she watched everyone else. Later that night, in the car, I asked, "You meant that as a joke, right?" She looked at me and smiled faintly. Of course. I turned back to the road. But my stomach twisted. Because when someone lies with a smile, it doesn't make it prettier. It just makes it colder. Back home, I watched her fall asleep with her back to me again. Just like always. And in that moment, I realized I didn't know the woman I'd been married to for 19 years. But worse than that, I didn't know myself anymore either. I used to be a man who built things. Now I was a man quietly watching his own life buckle under the weight of withheld truths. The waiting became its own form of torture. Like being tied to a chair, blindfolded, listening to a ticking clock you couldn't stop. And still, I did nothing. Because hope, as it turns out, is just denial in a better suit. It was Tuesday afternoon when the universe decided to throw gasoline on my smoldering house of emotional tension and light a match named Uncle Larry. Yes, that Uncle Larry, Elisa's retired bachelor uncle who smells like Vicks VapoRub and conspiracy theories, and who hasn't visited us in 7 years because, as he puts it, the federal government monitors doorbells. He showed up unannounced with 2 mismatched suitcases and a smile like a man who had never once taken a social cue seriously. Elise opened the door and shrieked with delight. I opened the fridge and cursed under my breath, there were only 2 beers left. "Oh my God, Larry, what are you doing here?" Elise said, hugging him. "Just felt like dropping in," he said. My landlady started talking about a rent increase, and I thought, I have family. Family who owes me a warm couch and decent cheese. I stood there, still in my work pants, holding a half-sliced cucumber and feeling like I had just been recruited into a hostage situation. Uncle Larry made himself at home instantly. Within 10 minutes, he turned the guest room into a disaster relief zone. Socks draped over lamps. Cologne bottles, 3, all different brands, none pleasant, lined the windowsill. A pair of binoculars sat beside the bed. For bird watching, he explained. Or other watching. He winked. I laughed in a way that I hoped sounded less terrified than it felt. That night, dinner was a performance. Larry told us about his theories on mattress firmness and government subversion. "You ever wonder why the clouds don't move like they used to?" he asked, stuffing mashed potatoes into his mouth. "Not once," I said. "They've got satellites shaped like hawks." Just saying. Elise was charmed. She always had a soft spot for absurdity in manageable doses. But by the end of the meal, I started to feel it, a bizarre, reluctant relief. Larry's presence, loud and strange as it was, created a buffer. For once, Elise wasn't scanning her phone. She laughed. She touched my arm while passing the salad. For 3 seconds, we felt like a normal couple hosting an eccentric relative, not two strangers divided by betrayal and silence. That night, after Larry passed out on the recliner watching late-night cable news, Elise stood beside me in the kitchen washing a wine glass. "Thanks for putting up with him," she said softly. "Thanks for warning me," I replied. She smiled. A real one. Not the kind she used at dinner parties to survive conversations, an actual flicker of warmth. "Do you remember our first apartment?" she asked. "The one with the leaky window?" I nodded. "We used to laugh more," she said. And there it was. Not an apology. Not a confession. But the first honest thing she'd said to me in weeks. "We did," I agreed. In that moment, I didn't want to talk about Mark, or perfume, or hotel charges. I wanted to freeze that sliver of time where we were just two tired people remembering how they used to fit. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't hope. But it was something. Larry snored from the living room like a chainsaw trapped in a dryer. "Well," I said, "if the satellites hear us trying, maybe they'll give us a break." She laughed. And just for one night, I let the squirrel in the attic rest. It happened on a Thursday. Which, in my life, has always been the day boring things go to die. Dentist appointments. Car inspections. The day your socks all vanish from the dryer. So it felt fitting that Thursday would be the day I found confirmation that my marriage had officially crossed over from trouble to tragicomic. Elise had left her laptop open. A minor miracle. She was in the shower. Uncle Larry, God bless him, had passed out in the recliner again, snoring like someone vacuuming marbles. I walked into the kitchen for a snack and saw the glowing screen. At first, I was just going to close it. But the mouse twitched. The screen came alive. An email inbox. Open. Staring back at me like it had been waiting. And then I saw the name. Mark. My stomach dropped like an elevator with a snapped cable. There were only 3 emails. Short. Sterile. But the subject lines read like crime scene chalk. Last time was risky. Can we talk somewhere private? I miss you. Badly. I clicked on one. It was brief. Elise, I keep thinking about that night. I know we said it wouldn't happen again. But I also know we said that last time. I stood there holding a granola bar I no longer wanted, wondering how it felt to be the most oblivious man in America. I hadn't just missed the signs, I'd practically rewritten them to say something comforting. I closed the laptop. I didn't delete anything. I didn't scream. I just stood there. Half in the light from the refrigerator door. Elise came out of the shower, towel on her head, humming like nothing had happened. "Granola?" she asked, noticing the bar in my hand. "No thanks. Lost my appetite." She noticed my tone. I could see it in the way she paused by the sink, her hand hovering over the sponge. "What's wrong?" "Oh, I don't know," I said. "Just wondering how many affairs I need to overlook before I get to feel important again." Her face changed. Cold. Fast. Like she had practiced this look in the mirror. "What the hell does that mean?" "It means I saw the emails, Elise." The pause stretched. "Then, you went through my stuff?" That was her play. Not remorse. Not explanation. Just defense. "Your laptop was open." I didn't snoop. I tripped and fell face-first into your honesty. You had no right. Right? You lost the right to righteous indignation when you invited Mark into your life and into your body. Again. Her mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. "I told you it was a mistake," she said. "You're twisting things." "Oh, I'm twisting things? Like the truth? Like the part where it was more than just Portland?" Uncle Larry coughed from the living room. I could hear the squeak of leather as he shifted. "You're being dramatic," she hissed. "No," I said, "I'm finally being accurate." She glared. "You want to be a martyr? Fine. Go ahead. Burn down the whole thing. Maybe it's easier than facing your own failures." "My failures?" I laughed, a dry, humorless wheeze. What? Not being sexy enough? Not suggesting the right lingerie? Not turning into Mark 2.0? She stormed out of the kitchen. And I stood there, alone, holding a granola bar like it was a smoking gun. Here's the thing about finding out you've been cheated on multiple times by someone who still sleeps on your left side: you stop trusting angles. Every mirror becomes a maybe. Every smile a negotiation. I walked outside into the cold. Sat on the porch swing and let the air slap me into clarity. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I suddenly realized I'd spent a decade being the emotional equivalent of a tax deduction: reliable, necessary, and utterly unexciting. And now I was finally angry. Not just at Elise, but at myself. Because I had confused being calm with being passive. And now, it was time to stop being both. I can explain, Elise said. No, I said, my voice calm, low, like a man ordering soup at a funeral. You really can't. But go ahead, lie pretty for me. She paused, shifted her weight, her towel now a little crooked on her head like a crown worn too long. I was lonely, she offered. You have a house. A husband. A snoring Uncle Larry. You weren't lonely, Elise. You were bored. You just didn't think I'd notice while you were off taste testing midlife crises. She opened her mouth again, but I held up a finger. And please, for the love of God, don't say it didn't mean anything. If I hear that phrase one more time, I'll put it on our gravestone. That's when Larry burst in with his shirt unbuttoned and a bowl of cereal in one hand. You guys fighting? Can I make popcorn? We both stared at him. Elise's face turned beet red. Larry took it as encouragement. I once got dumped during a root canal. This is way more entertaining. He shuffled off. I turned back to Elise. We're like a bad indie film. Except no soundtrack, no budget, and definitely no happy ending. I want to fix this, she said suddenly. I want us to try again. That stopped me. Not because I believed her, but because I could see the fear behind her eyes. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, she was afraid of losing me. I sat down. Calm now. Too calm. Like the part of the movie where the villain stops shouting and starts smiling. You remember our first vacation? I asked. She blinked. The cabin? Yeah. You brought one book. One. A romance novel you said was trashy but secretly loved. You read the whole thing in a day. And when you were done, you looked up at me and said, "That's how I want to feel. Every day." She nodded slowly, clearly not sure where I was going. That's when I knew I had to keep you, I said. And somewhere along the way, I started trying so hard to make you feel safe, I forgot to make you feel seen. A beat. I failed you. But you didn't break. You ran. And now we're standing in the wreckage and wondering if there's still a house under all this ash. Elise sat across from me now. Our knees almost touching. Her voice cracked a little. I didn't think you'd want to try. Well, I didn't think you'd sleep with Mark. So I guess we're both poor gamblers. We both let out a small laugh. It was bitter. But real. Then Uncle Larry called out, "Hey! Who put the peanut butter in the fridge again? I swear this place is a war zone for snacks." I stood up. You want to try? Then we try. But not because we're scared of being alone. We do it because we want something better than what we just survived. She nodded. Then I added, and we get Larry out of this house before he installs a CB radio in the bathroom. She smiled. I smiled. Briefly. Just enough. And just like that, for the first time in a long time, it felt like we were both on the same page. In the same chapter. Maybe even writing the next one together. But that was before the next secret dropped. We got a text from Elise's sister the next morning. Her mom had collapsed. Stroke. Massive. Just like that, we were shoved from emotional therapy sessions and passive-aggressive silence into emergency mode. Elise barely had time to grab a duffel bag before we were on the road to St. Catharines Regional, where her mother lay in ICU looking smaller than I had ever seen her. I held Elise's hand in the elevator, and for the first time in months, she didn't pull away. Her mother woke up briefly that afternoon, long enough to squeeze Elise's hand and whisper, "You always did run too fast." Then she closed her eyes, and the machines took over the breathing. We slept in shifts on those horrible vinyl recliners in the waiting room. I watched Elise curl up in her hoodie, eyes red from crying, and I remembered the woman I fell in love with, not the version she became, not the one that betrayed me, but the girl who used to fall asleep on the couch during movie marathons and drool on my shoulder. You don't forget that girl. No matter how hard she tries to disappear behind adult mistakes. Larry stayed home, thank God. Though he did text me a picture of him trying on my blazer with the caption, "What do you think, too much shoulder?" In a weird way, the tragedy softened us. Crisis has a way of flattening all your petty wars. Elise reached for me in the hospital hallway and leaned into my chest like she did back in year 4, when her job fell apart and she cried in our laundry room for an hour. "Thank you," she whispered. "For still being here." I didn't say anything. I just kissed the top of her head. 2 nights later, her mother passed. The funeral was small, quiet, and strangely warm. Elise gave a eulogy. She told a story about how her mother once pretended not to know Elise had stolen her car in high school and waited for her to admit it for a full week. She got a laugh from the crowd, and for a moment I saw the glow again. Afterward, we sat in the car. Elise had her feet up on the dashboard, her heels discarded in the back seat. "I think I want to go to therapy," she said. "For real. With you." I nodded. "And I need to tell you something before we do." Here it came. The next blow. I didn't stop with Mark. There was someone else. Months ago. It wasn't a full affair. It was emotional. But it was real. I didn't sleep with him. But I wanted to. It hurt. Bad. But not like the first time. This wasn't a betrayal, it was a confession. The difference was everything. I sighed. "Well. At least you're finally done excavating your guilt." She smiled, barely. "I hope so." And just when I thought we'd leveled out, she added, "Also, I think I'm pregnant." The world stopped. I stared at her, jaw slightly unhinged. "Wait. What?" "I took a test. 2, actually. It's early. Could be a false alarm." The air got sucked out of the car. "Is it?" I didn't want to finish the sentence. She shook her head. "It's yours. I swear. The timing, it can only be you." I exhaled. Laughed. Laughed so hard I startled her. Then I cried. It was stupid and beautiful and absurd. We were a pair of broken clock hands finding rhythm again by accident. "You know what this means, right?" I said, wiping my eyes. "That we're in deep?" "No. That Larry's gonna offer to be the godfather." We both burst out laughing. Then Elise took my hand and held it tight. And in that moment, I didn't know how our story would end. But I knew I wanted to stay in it. "Okay," I said, gripping the sides of the kitchen island like I was bracing for an earthquake. "Let's recap. Your mom died, we had a touching funeral, you possibly got pregnant, and you told me about a second guy. This relationship's like a soap opera written by someone with a head injury." Elise looked up from her tea. "You forgot Larry trying to FaceTime the cat while wearing your bathrobe." "Right," I nodded. "Truly the emotional glue holding this family together." She smiled. I didn't. Not yet. Because today was the day we were actually doing it, therapy. Real, awkward, brutal therapy. With a real, awkward, brutal therapist who looked like she taught improv on the side and had a pet lizard named Steve. Dr. Nina Roth took us in with the same calm used to explain turbulence on a crashing plane. "So," she said, folding her hands like a gunslinger holstering patience, "why are we here?" I started to talk. Elise interrupted. Then I interrupted back. It escalated into what can only be described as a Tarantino-style monologue off. "Okay, first of all," I said, pointing across the couch like it was a courtroom, "you can't cheat on me twice and then act like I'm the unstable one because I read your emails with all the subtlety of Sherlock Holmes on meth." Elise snapped back, "You emotionally checked out 5 years ago, and now you want to play the victim? You buried our sex life like a dog hides a bone and then acted shocked when I started sniffing around. Dr. Roth blinked once. Colorful metaphors. Let's unpack that. Oh, I said. Let's unpack the fact that I suggested therapy 3 years ago and she said, and I quote, "I don't need a stranger to tell me how I feel." And I stand by that, Elise said. Except now I do need one, because clearly, I'm sitting across from a man who thinks emotional support comes from post-it notes and passive-aggressive sandwich making. At that moment, even Dr. Roth chuckled. You two have chemistry. Dysfunctional, yes. But vibrant. The session ended with homework and sighs. Roth told us to spend a weekend doing something we used to enjoy. I suggested mini-golf. Elise agreed, reluctantly. Which is how I ended up on a fake pirate ship in socks and loafers, holding a golf club like a drunk pirate about to duel. Elise laughed so hard when I fell into a bush trying to retrieve my ball that a couple across the way asked if we were newlyweds. We said yes. It felt like the truth. We sat on the bumper of my car afterward, eating ice cream from a truck that hadn't been cleaned since 1997. She looked at me, serious now. I want to be better. With you. I nodded. Then stop hiding things. All of it. I want it all. Good, bad, ugly, even the weird feelings you still carry. If you're gonna gut me, at least hand me the knife first. She wiped a smudge of chocolate from my chin. I'm trying. Try harder, I said. She kissed me. It wasn't fiery. It wasn't desperate. It was intentional. Honest. Like pressing save on a chapter you weren't done writing. And just as we climbed into the car, Elise's phone buzzed. She looked at it. Froze. What? I asked. She turned the screen. It was a message. Unknown number. You think it's over? He told me everything. My heart sank. Who the hell is he? Elise swallowed. Looked at me. And said, I think you're about to meet the third guy. There's a line I once read in a college philosophy class, we are more often treacherous through weakness than through calculation. Rochefoucauld, I think. Never liked the guy. Too French. Too right. The message sat between us like a bomb with no timer. Elise held her phone like it had started to burn. Who is it? I asked again, quieter now. Elijah, she said. I'd never heard that name before. Not once. Not even in the background noise of her day. Elijah who? He was in one of the online courses I moderated, she said. We started chatting about books. It was nothing at first. Is it ever? She didn't argue. And that, somehow, made it worse. I got out of the car. Needed air. Space. Something without her voice in it. I walked down the sidewalk, past the same neighbors we used to barbecue with, past the empty swing set from when our daughter was little, past the mailbox still taped from when Larry ran it over and swore it was a raccoon. I ended up in the garage. Sat on the cooler. The one we used to take on trips. I started talking out loud. To myself. To the ghost of my better judgment. I should have left the first time, I said. But I didn't. Because I thought love was an investment that couldn't be refunded. But maybe love is more like a lease you keep paying, hoping one day you'll own it. Even when the roof's caving in. I looked at my hands. At the veins. The calluses. These were hands that fixed our sink, installed our ceiling fan, wrote letters, paid bills. Hands that Elise used to trace in bed. I failed her. Not just by shutting down when our sex life did. Not just by trying to fix everything with logic instead of presence. But by letting her slip away in silence. I let her become a mystery because I didn't want to hear her answers. I'd made myself small in this marriage. And she took the space I gave her and filled it with secrets. And now a stranger had her number. I walked back inside an hour later. She was on the couch, still staring at the screen. Elise. She looked up. I'm not asking for the whole story, I said. But I need to know what's left of us. Truthfully. Because right now, we're bleeding from too many places, and I don't know which wound to close first. She nodded. Quiet. Tired. Real. I didn't sleep with Elijah, she said. But I wanted to. It felt safe. Intimate. He listened. And when I stopped messaging him, he got angry. I thought it was done. It's never done. Not when you leave the door cracked. She cried then. Not loud. Not showy. Just quietly. One of those cries that comes from someone finally realizing the price of their own freedom. I didn't comfort her. Not right away. Because forgiveness isn't instant. It's earned in increments. And we hadn't even paid the deposit. I walked into the kitchen. Started making eggs. I don't know why. Maybe because grief needs protein. She joined me. Sat in the chair, same chair she always used. Like muscle memory. I need to stop pretending we can fix this overnight, she said. I nodded. We can't. But we can choose not to destroy what's left. A long pause. You still love me? She asked. I do, I said. But I don't trust you. Not yet. She nodded. Then I'll wait. I served the eggs. We ate in silence. Outside, the neighbor's dog barked. Larry was arguing with the mailman about government drones. And inside, we were two broken people eating eggs like it might actually matter. There's another quote I've come to believe: love is a fire. But whether it is going to warm your hearth or burn down your house, you can never tell. Joan Crawford. Let's just say the match was lit. They say time heals all wounds. I don't know if that's true. But it does do something. It sands down the jagged edges. It doesn't erase the scar, but it makes it easier to run your hand across it without bleeding. It's been 6 months. We're still here. Not magically fixed. Not tied in a bow like some Hollywood reconciliation montage. But we're choosing each other again. Every day. And some days, that's easier than others. Some days, it still hurts. But most days, it doesn't. The therapy stuck. The routines changed. Elise deleted all her old contacts, changed her number, started journaling. I stopped retreating into silence, started listening more and fixing less. We both stopped pretending that love was something that would simply hold without effort. Turns out, love is more like a roof in the rain, you don't wait until it leaks to patch it. Larry moved out. He left us a letter that began, "You two are like a country song written by Nietzsche," and ended with, "Don't name the baby after me unless you want it to be unemployed and too curious about UFOs." We laughed until we cried. And then we laughed some more. Elise is showing now. The baby's real. The future's real. And somehow, despite everything, we're learning to be real, too. And maybe that's the point of all this. We mess up. We lie. We withdraw. We cheat, sometimes on our partners, sometimes just on the versions of ourselves we promise to become. But we can also choose to stop. To repair. To grow. Not out of guilt, but out of something stronger, humility. If you're reading this, maybe you're in a storm of your own. Maybe your trust has been shattered, or maybe you're the one who shattered it. Either way, don't pretend you're invincible. You're not. But you are redeemable. And so is the person sitting across from you. Here's what I've learned. Silence is not safety. Resentment is just love that never got a chance to speak. And forgiveness, real, hard-earned forgiveness, is the bravest form of love there is. So talk. Listen. Apologize when you mean it. And if someone hands you their brokenness, don't turn away. Look at it. Hold it. And if you can, help them carry it. As for us, we're not perfect. But we're better. And sometimes, that's more than enough. Take care of your love. Speak it. Mend it. Protect it. And for God's sake, keep the peanut butter out of the fridge. The end.